So this is another episode of Carmen Talk, and I want to talk about a few different subjects. I'm just going to go with it. One of the things I think is really important to me in my life is to make sure that I'm a person of integrity all the time. I don't always succeed, right? But it's never intentional if I'm not a person of integrity. But one of the other things I can't stand is when I see someone else do something and they think I'm not going to call them out on it. I will always call people out on things if I know what I'm talking about. So first, let me say one thing that most of my friends and family hate that I say, but it still is true, right? It's one of the things they hate that I say, but it's still true. Okay, I had to repeat that. I don't talk about what I don't know. I really don't. If I don't know something, I am the first person to ask a question or admit straight up, I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't understand something, or I'll ask you to explain it. And I've always been that person. And I'm going to be really honest in this, and I'm going to be very vulnerable in this and say, I learned really quickly as a kid that the minute you ask people something or you tell people you don't know something, they can have two reactions. One, they can think that you're a complete idiot, which shows everything you need to know about that person. So it's kind of like a clue in to walk away from them and never be in their presence again, right? It's a great determining factor in choosing people to stay in my life. And then the other way they can react is like from a place of positivity and joy to teach me something new. And most people are those people. Most people love when you say, you know what, I didn't know that. You explain to me, and then they can react like, yes, let me help you. I'd love to teach you this. It's kind of a cool little trick I learned as a kid. And I shouldn't call it a trick, but it's one of the ways in which I think I survived. But the other part of what I learned about myself is that it's okay that I don't know everything. I'm not supposed to know everything. There's nobody on the planet who knows everything. My goodness, even Einstein sucked at math a little bit. It's just a thing out there that people should understand that it's okay not to know something. And when you make a mistake, the real test of who we are is not that we made a mistake. We're human. We're always going to make mistakes. But when we make a mistake, we own up to it, we rectify it, and we move forward with it. And if you have to apologize, that's fine. This isn't a conversation about apologies, but if I make a mistake and somebody calls me out on it or I notice it on my own, I am the first to be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I just did that. I apologize, or I'll try to rectify it in whatever way, shape, or form I can. When you choose instead to double down on something, it changes the game for me a bit. Like if you double down on something because you just want to be right, that's where I lose it a little bit. And that happened this past week for me. I'm going to use an example like this to explain what I'm talking about. You can't turn around and have a mistake happen that can influence other people or hurt other people and couch it under this idea that it's just your opinion. You really cannot do that. Let me give you a great example. If I said to you, Chris Hemsworth is a black man with dreadlocks. If those of you who don't know who Chris Hemsworth is, he is the actor who plays Thor in all the Avenger movies. Google it, okay? But if I said to you that Chris Hemsworth is a black man with dreadlocks, you would say to me, okay, Carmen, are you drinking something? What's wrong with you? He's not a black man with dreadlocks. But if I doubled down on that and said, no, he is. He's actually a black man with dreadlocks. You might turn around and be like, okay, Carmen's crazy, but you'd also be like, Carmen is lying, right? You would say, Carmen, you're lying. Chris Hemsworth is not a black man with dreadlocks. I can either turn around and say, you know what, you're right. I made a mistake. He's not a black man with dreadlocks. I'm so sorry. I meant so-and-so. Or I could turn around and double down and say, no, he is. He absolutely is. That's my opinion. Okay, this is the problem with that. Your opinion cannot be, I'm sorry, your opinion cannot be based on falsehoods. Your opinion just makes you look stupid and dumb because there's nothing factual about Chris Hemsworth being a black man with dreadlocks. You can say it's your opinion, but now you just look like a complete idiot and a fraud. Now, the problem really becomes when people who don't know who Chris Hemsworth is hear what you said and don't see or hear anything else and start believing that Chris Hemsworth is actually a black man with dreadlocks. And then they start talking about where he might have been born and where he grew up and all the great music he does. And they just start feeding on a lie. Right? He's not a musician. He's not somebody who grew up in, Jamaica or whatever. I mean, so you can see how your small mistake, quote unquote, opinion is wrong. And, to me, it's just abusive that in this day and age, we would play that game. And this is why I think the internet has gotten so bad, because so many people think it's okay to turn around and share things that are wrong, even when they're called out on it. They're wrong. And then they turn around and leave their videos up. They leave their comments on. They leave things to fester. So this happened this past week, and it was disturbing to me and very upsetting because I don't like being someone who is okay with mistruths. I think we've gotten to a place in this country, in the United States of America, where we're just so disenchanted by actually being people of integrity, because it takes a lot of work to do that, right? It takes a lot of work to own up to or research things. And I start to realize now people don't read. They really do not read. People do not read. People do not research. People do not actually look through, but they say they do. They say they research things. They say they know things, and they do not. And here's how I know. Because it happened again this past week, where I went to somebody's social media page and they were spreading mistruths. And so I called them out on it, and it became a thing. And I decided to just unfollow them and have them not follow me back as well, because I cannot have people in my life who allow the separation of who we are, neighbor to neighbor, to continue on. There is no way on the planet that it is okay for you to believe that Chris Hemsworth is a black man with dreadlocks. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no way that that's an okay thing for you to believe. Now, if we're being creative and, we're kind of having this kind of blasé conversation about the possibilities of Chris Hemsworth being, that's a different ballgame. But you cannot say emphatically that that's the way it is and that that's who he is. And then when you're called out on it and you're shown a picture of it and you're given evidence of it, that, means you have to read a little bit, or you have to watch some videos, or you have to actually do some research. If I present that information to you and you keep saying, well, you know what, that's my opinion, I'm kind of done. Because imagine if your children did that. Imagine if your kid said a bold-faced lie to you, and then you asked them, why are you lying? And they said, you know what, Mom, that's just my opinion. Is that okay? No, it's actually not okay, because that's not how it works. That's not how opinions work. And I think that's the other part of it too. I think, especially when it comes to politics, this situation actually had to do with politics and not Chris Hemsworth. God love him. But when it comes to politics and why our country has become so divided, it is because of all these small micro sessions of people using their social media to spread, even accidentally, because I actually think this began as an accidental misunderstanding of actually what happened. But then when I tried to explain it, they refused to budge and they couched it in, it's my opinion. Here's the thing. Opinions are not facts. But when you are someone who is okay with promoting your opinion as a motherfucking lie, I'm done. Especially when you're someone who has a lot of power or a lot of followers or a lot of people who depend on you for information, especially when you have people who follow you who are from both parties. If you cannot honor who you are and what your power is and how important it is for you to make sure that whatever you say has actual backing and fact, and it is not based on fiction and bullshit, I don't want nothing to do with you. It really is that simple. Like if somebody is going to post that Chris Hemsworth is a black man with dreadlocks from Jamaica, because you see, now we're going to add stuff, right? We're going to add stuff on because that's how social media works. And now we're going to say he's originally from Jamaica. Yeah, he's from Jamaica. And he's a musician because, right? This is how it works. This is how the lies begin. And if you don't understand that logically, and you're out there in social media playing around and not realizing that your words matter, that what you put out there, it's not just forever, it's about you. I don't want nothing to do with you. And look, I have a lot of Trump supporters who follow our show and our podcast. I am not a Trump supporter. I think everyone is well aware of my political leanings. And we try never to talk about politics. But sometimes it happens, especially during this past week, during the Democratic National Convention. I decided to cancel the show because I wanted to watch the amazing historical event that was the acceptance speech and the acceptance of the nomination by Vice President Harris and Tim Walz, Governor Tim Walz, which is when we usually do our show. So it's not usually a political show, but I cannot be devoid of who I authentically am. And I did not want to do the show during such an amazing, monumental, historical moment in time. And I wanted other people, I wanted Trump supporters to also feel like they were invited and could go and watch as well, even though I doubt many of them would. I wish they would, because there were so many people from the Republican Party, from the Trump, administration in the past, who were at the DNC. And it was actually kind of lovely. I mean, patriotism, I kind of miss it. I miss feeling so good about my neighbors and the people that are around us on a regular basis. You know what I mean? So this is kind of what's important to me in this podcast, is to really start making sure that we as individuals start understanding our own responsibility towards the division in our country, and how what we do, the way in which we behave, the way in which we interact on social media and in person is exactly the same. And when we make a mistake, we need to either delete it or do another video or make another comment or do something to make sure that people who listen to us, follow us, who are friends of ours, who are people that rely on us for information, understand that we made a mistake. Chris Hemsworth is from Australia. He is a white man with straight hair. He is not from Jamaica. He is an actor. He is not a musician. Everything about Chris Hemsworth is the opposite of what I just said, right? He's, saying that he's a black man with, dreadlocks and from Jamaica and a musician. He's actually the opposite of all those things in a way. And to pretend that that would be true, to double down on that mistruth, just makes me look like an idiot. However, for people who don't know who Chris Hemsworth is, for some of those people who don't follow, right? For people who are Trump supporters and don't follow politics, what this person said was truth. It is truth. And that's what irked me so much. So I want to just put a little reminder out there to everyone who listens to my show, who listens to the Carmen Talks, who is someone who has been always so supportive of me and anything I do. We need to be responsible human beings. We need to not only do the best we can, as we go along in this process of whatever it is we're creating and doing. But when we make a mistake, which is the most important part of who we are, right? The most important part of who we are is not when things are easy, it's when things are hard. We need to be able to take responsibility for our actions. And I think one of the most important things that anyone can do, this is the way in which I try to live my life. When I see or hear something that I don't understand or I think is blatantly wrong, my first thought is, okay, what do I not understand? What do I not get about this process that could possibly be wrong? I'll give you guys another example. I have an elder in my family who, they're not even that old, but anyway, every time they use the phone or every time they try to use a computer, they're always mad at the computer or the phone, right? They're like, oh, the stupid phone doesn't work. Or see, the computer is just, there's something wrong. There's a virus. Everything's a virus when you're like someone who doesn't use a computer or a phone. So I always have to remind them, it's just a machine. Like, there's nothing wrong with the computer or the phone. It's you. You don't know how to use it. Let me show you. You know what I mean? But no matter what, they will continuously say that it's the phone's fault or the computer's fault. When I have an issue with my computer or my phone, my first thought isn't what's wrong with the phone or the computer. My first thought is, okay, what am I not getting? What am I not understanding? A lot of people I work with know that I'm not a Mac person at all. I'm not an Apple product person. I don't have an iPhone and I don't use Mac computers, but two of my clients solidly use Mac computers for everything. So one of my clients' offices has a primo, brilliant, it's just easy to use. Now I've used Mac computers, but I'm not at ease as I am with Windows, right? But every time I have a problem with the Mac at any of my clients, I'm not yelling at Apple or the computer. I know it's me. I know that I'm not thinking the same. Because even though they're both computers, Windows and Mac, there are different ways in which they work when it comes to using different software programs on them. Okay? My point is, I take responsibility. I have humility enough to know that it's probably me. It's probably me first. So if somebody tells you something and you don't understand it, or you watch television and you see something and you're not sure and you're like, what is going on? Your first thought shouldn't be, let me put this on, social media and complain about it. Let me start complaining about the Mac computer. Mac computers are horrible. They're terrible computers, blah, 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 blah. No. My first thought is, what do I not understand about Mac computers? How can I turn around and figure out what I'm not understanding to get it? It's the same thing I tell to my elder whenever they complain about the phone or the computer. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's try this again, because I'm telling you, it's not the computer. It's you. Let me show you how to open the email. You know what I mean? We have to have more humility and start understanding that we don't know what we don't know. Now, when you know what you know, you're not going to be confused. You're not going to be confused. And it's not going to be that complicated. So if you've never watched something before and this is your first time watching it, or if you don't know how a system works, don't first start complaining about it and making assumptions. But if you do, because you think you know and you made a mistake, and then somebody calls you out on it, your job in that moment is not to double down on the fact that Chris Hemsworth is a Black man with dreadlocks from Jamaica who's a musician. That's not your first take. Your first take is, you know what? I don't think I understand this. I don't think how could Thor be a Black man? Let me double check this. You don't double down on the lies. I'm going to turn on and be like, you know what? I made a mistake. Thor, Chris Hemsworth, is not a Black man. I made a mistake. I am so sorry. Here's what I meant to say, or here's who I thought I was talking about, or here's the person I meant to bring up in this conversation. Who we are as human beings is so important to me. People make fun of me all the time about a lot of things. But the one thing that I don't care about is money. I don't care about money at all. And I work for a lot of wealthy people, and I have in the past, and I continue to. And I'm telling you, money means less and less to me as I get older. But what does matter to me is if you're a good and decent person, if you have integrity, and if you are somebody who has a core value and moral compass, and if you are able to apologize or fix something when you make a mistake, or rectify a situation when you were the cause of the problem, or know that you don't know what you don't know, and shut up if you don't know. You know what I mean? Ask the question. If you don't know something, ask the question. People will respect you for it. I promise you, it is the better way to go always. So I hope that was clear. I hope everyone understands that Chris Hemsworth, who we all love and adore, is a beautiful man and is not a black man from Jamaica who is a musician with dreadlocks. That's not him. He is a fabulous, wonderful actor, and we love him. We love Thor, and we love Chris Hemsworth. But I hope that made the point clear, and I hope we all start taking some responsibility as to what we can do to not just make our own personal lives better, but to understand how we can affect other people. And y'all know that matters to me. I wrote an entire book, Canela, about how important it was to have such wonderful people of integrity and just of immense humanity in my life as a kid. It matters to me that people have integrity and are good and decent human beings. And I will always fight for that in my life. And when I see that that's not happening, I walk away, because there are too many people in the world for me to miss out on. And it is not my job to fix people. And it is not my job to make you somebody you cannot be if you are not ready. But it is my job to protect my space. And protecting my space means always having as much joy and beauty and possibility as possible in my life. So with that, thank you for stopping by. As always, remember, it really is all about the joy. And we will see you on Thursdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, until next time, bye. Thanks for stopping by All About the Joy. Be better and stay beautiful, folks. Have a sweet day.